Hello there, I'm the Base Manager and welcome back to a design showcase / tutorial for the CAN bus system. If you've seen the last video on this system, you have seen the encoder and decoder. In just a short description, this is a system that allows you to write multiple signals into the same line and have a decoder on the other side decode such signals. With this, you can have multiple systems connected to the same line. Very useful and something that we are trying to implement in Season 4 of Oxygen Not Included. However, this was the prototype tech, this was the idea, shall we say, and since then, things have evolved. Please allow me to showcase two new designs that are going to revolutionate. It's going to be a revolution to this design, okay, to this idea. First in line, we have the super encoder. Instead of encoding one signal, why not encode 4 signals from the same encoder? Yes, it is a little bit bulky, sure. However, it is possible to implement. We have one in our main base, and it has the advantage of having 4 codes instead of 1. In here, well, pretty much we are going to use some multiplexing to make sure that only one code can be written at a time. However, after we are done with this one, another technology has just been developed. That technology is the infinite encoder. With this encoder, you can pretty much stretch it as much as you want and have as many signals as you want. This encoder is powered by what I like to call a self-perpetual automation machine, which opens one channel for a given amount of time and then activates the next channel to be open, and the next one, and the next one, and then everything resets. If you want, you can have multiple signals going as long as you have space. So that, and you know, pretty much they will just activate each other over time and then reset itself, pretty much allowing you to send as many signals from one single encoder as you want. However, time to explain all of this, shall we? Now, for ease of explanation, if you have not seen the first video, I would advise you, because we are going to discuss pretty much the same tech we have discussed it there. But yeah, this one is going to be a little bit complicated, my friend, so I'm gonna do my best. Here we go. So, as we all have established in the last video, multiple things need to be created in order to have the encoder working, right? We have the encoding part, the signal body part, and the signal selection part. However, this one takes that concept a little bit further, so how about we start from the beginning and we go our way up. We follow the signal as much as we can. So pretty much in here we have the first section, the signal selection system. In here, go away, thank you. In here we have two parts from the multiplex research tech thingy, which are going to cycle throughout all the channels, allowing only one channel to be activated. We achieve this by having this timer sensor set to 5 seconds on green and red, and then having this counter over here set to 2. The signal switch goes into the counter and goes into the pins of both these things. The counter as well goes into these 2 pins over here. This combination of wiring plus timer sensor and counter will make it so that the signals will always be mirrored, so that this signal and this signal are mirrored. Whenever this one is active, this one is active, and so on and so forth. Why do we want this? So that we can have multiple signals at the same time. Let's say that 2 signals are activated at the same time. We don't want 2 codes to be written, we want them to be written one after the other. So this is going to cycle through the channels, and should one signal be written into this, and by the way, I think this thing is not exactly super well set up when it comes to the timer, so maybe it's gonna go a little bit into a wire, but don't worry about that. Come on, go away. Please, game, thank you. So yeah, we don't want 2 signals to be written at the same time. This is going to allow us to cycle through the signals themselves. In here we have this filler gate set to 0.5. This is very necessary because every time these things flip, sometimes there are ghost signals. Yeah, bit Yeah, it's because of the thing. Nothing we can do. These filler gates will filter those ghost signals away, and no problemo. Now, in here, please ignore this. This is something I was developing, but I don't want it. It's too bulky. This is far better, but because it's still useful for future reference, I left it here. We can imagine these 4 wires over here going through here, as we can see, right? And now it's hydration time. Much better. Nothing that a big gulp in a Monster energy drink won't fix. But in any case, we have these 4 wires over here, which are these 4 ones. We just had to go around the existing thingy over here. And these 4 wires will then activate these signal pulses over here. These are set to 0.1 because we just want a quick pulse to go off. And that same signal will also go into OR gates. These OR gates is so that we can unite all the signals without having signals traveling backwards. So we want to separate the lines, but this way all the signals will activate this one line, which in turn is going to activate the main signal spine of the encoder. Right, but we will see this one in action soon. This one should be explained first. Now, this thing doesn't look like it has any sense to exist, but it must be set up this way because of the way, you know, these signals for the multiplexing work. So pretty much we want these 2 wires to kind of replicate these signals in the way that this channel over here is open whenever this signal over here is green, right? So we need to pretty much make sure that in order for this one to be open, we need 2 reds. If you want this one over here, we need this one to be red. However, we need this one to be green, because when a signal is green, it's gonna flip the thingies, right? However, if you want this one must be green, this one must be red, this one, both must be green. And therefore, whenever one signal gets activated, it goes through this mayhem of wires and OR gates and AND gates, so that make sure that the wires will correspond to the required automation situation. I'm sorry, my English is failing me today apparently, but I can't find the correct words to describe this thing, but I hope that it makes sense. Okay, yeah, these are the 2 memories which are gonna simulate the signal that we want, and both of them must be reset in the end by the wire which we are going to call the reset wire over here. This reset wire is the one that resets everything in this system, so it must be connected to these memory gates as well. Now we already have the signal over here being chosen, and now the frequency must come through here. This has been seen in the previous video, but a quick re-explanation. That pulse of that signal that got sent from here activated this pulse generator, which in turn activated the waiting memory. This memory exists over here only for the sole purpose of should the line be busy, we need the system to wait for the line to stop being busy. That's why we have this memory over here. This memory will only transmit the signal to this AND gate should the system not be busy, right? This AND gate will then activate this memory gate, which in turn is going to allow the AND gate, which houses the frequency generator, to send its signal towards the multiplex thingy, right? Then the signal is going to travel towards the correspondent signal counter, which is going to determine the code, right? Like so, and then all the signal counters will be wired together. It's important that the same digit is wired to the same spot, right? You know, so all of these ones over here must be wired together, and all of these ones over here must be wired together as well. The reason for that is just we will only have one counter working at a time, and therefore we don't need to replicate this big body for each counter. It's to save space, but if you don't want to wire together, you need to have like this signal body for every single counter, right? And it's not necessary. So all of these counters which are together will then travel to the these memories over here, which will yeah, I know, a lot of memories and a lot of AND gates, but this is almost to the end. These memories over here are what we can call the end of signal message. because this is what is going to close the entire thing. Because at the same time that this gets activated, the signal will start to travel towards both pin 1 and pin 2. And we want both of these pins to be closed whenever the digit gets reached. In this case we have the 57 because this is my test code for everything, so all of these things are to 57. So whenever 7 pulses on pin 2 are elapsed, we want the thing to close, and whenever 5 pulses on pin 1 have elapsed, we want the thing to close. Therefore, that's what these memories will do. Okay, so before we progress any further over here, we'll have to travel back all the way to the frequency generator, because as we have previously established, it will send its signal through here. However, it will also send its signal somewhere else, which is over here into the pins. Whenever in the very first second that the entire system gets activated, the frequency generator will activate the pin writers over here. It is going to do that by sending its signal into this AND gate, into one of these ports in the AND gates, and the other port will be activated by this memory, which is also in turn activated by the frequency generator. This is so that this is only open until the message is written in the pin, because these memories will then in turn be resetted back into red, closing the pin by the closing memories that come from this part over here. Okay? Cool. Now, as we can see, these signals activate other things, such as this AND gate over here, because the moment both signals in pin 1 and pin 2 have concluded, we want the entire system to reset. Therefore, both get combined in this AND gate, which in turn activate these two pulse generators. The first pulse generator resets the counter, the second pulse generator is the reset wire that we spoke previously, that is going to reset all of these memories. Alright? Okay. Now, next time when I explain the next one, we are gonna skip this part because it's precisely the same. The only thing that changes is this body over here. So, this is the super encoder, very useful if you want to have 4 codes. However, you can almost say that this is obsolete, given that we can create a far more compact, complex and useful version of the super encoder, which I have called the infinite encoder. So now let me hydrate again with some more Monster Energy before I have the power to explain this beast. Alright, so in this one we don't use any multiplexing. What we use is what I like to call a self-powered perpetual automation machine. That's a lot of words. The idea is we have this memory system with filler gates which activates itself and the next one. Okay, let me try to explain that a little bit better. We want to write multiple signals with the same encoder. However, we only want one signal to be activated at a time. This allows to one channel to be active at a time for a certain amount of time. Whatever that time has elapsed, it is going to close itself and activate the next channel. And the next channel will do the same, keeping itself open for a set amount of time, and then resets itself and activates the next channel, which means that you can have as many channels as you want into the same encoder. And the beautiful part of this is that if you keep the same spacing in between counters, all of this fits perfectly snugly against each other, right? And you can just like expand this in the future easily. You just need to respect the one tile for every 2 counters, and you can have as many as you want. However, you just need to take in consideration that it's gonna take a lot longer for the entire thing to come back, you know, into the first channel. But I mean, personally, the fact that I can write, for example, 8 signals with this beast instead of 4 with this colossal mastodon, I can see the advantages. So, this is actually quite simpler. Let me just destroy this so I don't get distracted. This is actually quite simple because we don't need any multiplexing, and therefore we don't need any complicated signal selection systems. All that we need is a AND gate, a memory gate, and the self-powered perpetual machine. That's a lot of P's together in one word. So, how does this work? Quite simply. Now, please just imagine that this is against this. I just had to go around because we had things in the way. So, in here we have a piece of tech that was dropped by Grignac on my Discord server, which is a self-check pulse generator, shall we say. This allows you to generate a pulse every 200 seconds. Why is this useful? Let's say that this is a signal requesting water, and for some reason this signal got lost, and you know, the water didn't come. After 200 seconds, if the signal is still green, this thing will send another pulse. Right, this is going to write its message whenever this signal comes around, and then it's going to self-reset. We'll see this in action, don't worry, don't worry. I don't want to spoil the fun just yet. But yeah, if this signal is still green after 200 seconds, it's gonna send another pulse, because it meant that the signal got lost for some reason, right? Right, which is pretty cool. So this actually saves us a lot of space with this very simple automation bit, because this self-check signal pulsar will then write into a memory, which we are gonna call the waiting memory. This memory is just gonna wait for its channel to be open from the self-powered perpetual machine. The self-powered perpetual machine plus the signal in an AND gate over here is what is going to allow this memory gate over here to turn this AND gate green, allowing the frequency which we are going to generate over here to be written into the signal counter. Right? So as you can see, this one is much simpler, because the second this AND gate is open, it goes through the same motions of OR gates, which in turn activate the signal spine the same way the other did, right? And therefore this AND gate will be active, and the only thing we need for the frequency to be written is for this AND gate to receive its pulse from the self-powered perpetual machine in combination with the thingy over here. And so yeah, as you can see, this one is far simpler, in a way, far more compact, and much more expandable. Now, my friends, how about a quick demonstration, right? All the codes are 57, once again, testing code, okay? This over here is a self-reset on and off, not self-reset, this is a on and off decoder, okay? Also set to 57, turn on, turn off the light, right? So, let's go, let's choose one at random. You can be the Pokemon that I choose. Now, we need to wait for this channel over here to be open, which in turn goes over here, sends the 57 code, receives the signal, and bam, sends everything back to the Stone Age. And as we can see, the light has turned off. And then let's say we have this channel over here. Oops, it was already open, but oh well. As you can see, once again, only once the self-perpetual machine activates its own channel will it allow to send the code. And voila, as you can see, this one is turned on again. So yeah, beautiful. Just because, you know, personally I find these kinds of things to be very beautiful. Let's turn off that one. This one is almost turned on. Let's just see the automation in action, because, you know, personally I like to see the things flashing green and red. There we go. Bam, 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 bam. And everything is good to go. Beautiful, isn't it? So yeah, my friends, this is pretty much it. I hope that I made a good job at explaining this thing. Now, I didn't fully explain this one in such detail as this one, because it uses the same tech, okay? It's like this is the only thing that requires explanation. The rest is just AND gates and OR gates and memories which are connected in a specific way, right? So yeah, these memories all get reset by the same reset thingy, which is the pin 4 over here, right? We know the pin 4 is the confirmation message from the encoder over here, so that's what resets these ones over here. These ones, on the other hand, get reset by the internal check-in line, or it can be reset by pin 4. It's one of or the other is what is more convenient for you at the time, okay? You have the, like, this is over here is the self reset line. Over here we have a pin 4, which, by the way, this one doesn't need to exist, because this one is more than enough to reset everything. But yeah, you can either have pin 4 reset everything, or you can have your own internal reset counter. This own internal is important to have, obviously, because it's what resets the counter and whatnot. So yeah, there is a lot of maneuverability in this thing if you want to cut down on costs or something that you don't want to build or don't have the space to build. There is always a little bit of adaptation when it comes to the reset signal. But yeah, as you like, if you have the proper spacing, this should be easy enough to build. But in any case, my friends, this is probably not the last video on this subject. This technology is still developing, and yeah. And if you want to see this in action, how about you tune in to season 4 of Oxygen Not Included. But with all of that said, this is the Base Manager signing out. Bye bye.